little splash screen. Of course, I do upload these to YouTube as well, so you guys can rewatch these anytime that you want. The channel is Community StarCraft 2, as you can see down at the bottom. And if you're watching this on VOD, you can participate live. It's every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. You can talk to me in chat. You can send me your replays, and I'll analyze them in the second half of the show if you want to. But nevertheless, I'll just go ahead and jump into the game here while we load up. This is going to be on Polar Night, a map that is, of course, not in the map pool anymore. I mean, you'll still see this being applicable on the newer maps as well. So, I mean, I don't think map really plays too much into these replays, but either way, we'll jump into this. As soon as we get there, hide the timeline. And, of course, we already know our players we saw up there above. It's Scarlett versus Masa. And most of the time I try to choose replays that are fairly unique and diverse so that you get into game situations you don't always see. Mostly to help you guys out with situations where if you get into a situation, then you know how to work your way out of it. And of course, this first replay, we're going to be taking a look at it mostly from the Zerg perspective. But of course, we'll focus on the things that the Terran are doing as well. So I guess this will be for Zerg players to start out. And we'll go from there. So you can see a little bit of worker pairing here. Nothing too crazy. You can try this in your own games if you want to. It's basically trying to get drones stacked to the closest mineral patches, 2 on each. And we can actually see an SCV heading out to a weird place on the map here for Masa. This is one big problem with ZvT especially, is that trying to scout out the whole map is a big problem, which is why very occasionally people will choose to drone scout. It'll get them a lot better information. But yeah, this is going to be for proxy barracks. There's no reason for this SCV to be over here for anything other than that. And yeah, we're going to see the proxy barracks go down now. Second SCV rallying over as well is going to mean a second proxy barracks. So Scarlett's going to have to deal with that. And of course, the earlier your pool is, the better you're going to do against that. So Scarlett's going hatch first, which is really standard for this matchup. There's not much of a reason not to. So going to come down here, plant the hatchery. And then the question is, how many drones is she going to make before she puts down a spawning pool? So if you put it down right away, that's obviously the safest thing to do. Nope, she's going to make a drone in between there. And every single drone that you make, or a gas or whatever that you make, is going to hurt your chances at holding this. The second Overlord is now pushing over here, and it might actually scout this. The scouting path is just barely on the edge. So we'll have to see if she notices that. But basically what the Terran's going to want to do is start advancing bunkers up to your hatchery and try to kill that. And if they do, they should be on a pretty significant lead. So that's definitely what you want to prevent. The pool finally goes down now, but Scarlett's added on a couple of drones after the fact. I think she added 2 drones before starting that pool. And that's a big deal, because if she were to start it earlier, the Zerglings would be out just that much faster. She might prevent a bunker from getting started. And I think she knows what's going on now, because she saw the Overlord flood in here. There's nothing going on down there. And now the bunker started, and your biggest focus here is trying to get this SCV out of there. So you really need to prevent this from getting started. But the problem is that if you put too many drones down there and you don't kill the Marine, then it wasn't worth it. If you let the bunker get up, then that's even worse. So Scarlett needs to be careful and not lose drones here, but of course the pool being this late is a big problem. She needs to start Zerglings right away. Yeah, every second wasted is a big deal in this. And another thing you really need to do, as soon as your creep is done, start a spine crawler like right away. You absolutely need to get that spine crawler down, because that's the only way we're going to hold this. And know how Scarlett isn't trying to even fight with the drones anymore. There's only 2 Marines here, and they're doing a lot of work. This bunker, if this bunker finishes, this hatchery is basically dead, especially since there's no spine. She elects to start a queen instead. Zerglings finally come down, but these Marines always can micro back to the bunker. The second bunker finishing is going to mean she's going to lose this hatchery, so that's a big problem. Another bunker even started. This hatchery is dead, no question. She even cancels the egg that was building down here. Egg building? I don't think that even makes sense. Egg hatching. But so the spine finally now started, but this is in her main base, and that's not going to help her out until a really long time afterward. So this is the question. Once you lose your hatchery, what are you supposed to do about it? We saw players like Lucira do stuff like this a lot. He was kind of famous for losing his hatcheries and still winning in this type of situation. So Scarlett, what are you going to do? She's going to add double gas, and we're going to see what she's... So the next thing she wants to prevent is obviously everything piling up there and killing her. If he pulled Marines with this, or rather pulled SCVs with this, and just fought, and these spines weren't there, he'd probably just win the game. So you definitely do need these spines, just as a precaution. You can start trying to push your creep down there, but you do need to balance it out between spreading creep and injecting your hatchery. So another queen on the way. You can see she's mining 2 out of 3 on each gas. And this obviously has to be for some kind of tech. Sometimes you can Baneling bust your way through it. Sometimes you can go for Nidus, but that's pretty risky. Behind this, usually Terran will go for a double command center follow-up. So this is what Scarlett's trying to find out with this Overlord. So typically you're going to see a command center started down on the low ground here, and then probably another one here in the main. But since she's not seeing that quite yet, she's got to be thinking, okay, well this is a little weird. There's a lot of bunkers down here, and there's really no way Scarlett's going to cost-efficiently break this until she gets some form of higher tech out or a lot of Zerglings. So here's the extra command center coming up. He's not starting it on the low ground out of fear of just getting completely counterattacked and killed. So he's just building a third bunker here, which is really wise. Even a fourth bunker, this is a lot. So this is why his command centers are so late. He's just adding on more and more bunkers. I don't think Scarlett really has very good information on this. She could kind of float an Overlord out to see a little bit more of what was going on. Even denying the creep tumor is a big win here for Masa. So quite the huge lead for the time being. But all these bunkers, I think, are a little bit of an overcommitment. I think if you're Terran, you kind of just need to accept your lead here and go back home. There's no way he's going to kill these spines with this many Marines. The Queen's even pretty close to having a transfuse, so it's ready now. And she drops it on that right away. So Scarlett just slowly pushing her way out of this. But the interesting thing is that with her gas mining, she's gotten speed, and she started up a lair. So this is going to be some type of one-base lair tech, which is really, really rare. We're going to see if she's able to make this work. So only one command center back here in the main for Masa. He is really playing this overly conservative, which I guess will go to shift gears a little bit if you're Terran. If you're Terran and you get a hatchery kill like this, just keep one bunker, or maybe not even that, and just go back home and build your 3 command centers and accept your lead. Then you can build your barracks on the wall here, and you'll be safe from pretty much any all-in. Roaches take forever to knock those barracks down. Banelings, you can't waste them on barracks. So I think Masa is really just playing this overly cautious, and he's trying to deny Scarlett from ever taking a base down here. But if he commits too much to that and not enough to his own economy, then what's the point? I mean, he's still mining on one base at 8 minutes, almost 9 minutes right now. His SCV count isn't even that great. The command center is going to finally land, but that won't even be down until like 9:30. And I mean, what is Masa really gaining from this right now? So, yeah, I mean, this is what you really have to examine if you're the Terran player here. And look at this. This is an infestation pit on one base on the way, as well as burrow. Are we going to see burrowed infestors, which is the only thing that really makes sense here? A swarm host would eventually break this, but that's just way too slow. This is so weird. Another point of emphasis is that she broke down the rocks in the back and sent the Zerglings around just to see what can happen here. And the Zerglings coming up, this is why you need those barracks up here on the wall from Masa. So he's really misplaying this quite badly, I have to say. But a lot of Zerglings coming up here is going to surround these Marines, and that's going to basically kill all the Marines off, no problem. And this is becoming to be a huge problem for Masa. He should actually just raise these depots and just repair them. He doesn't need to go down there and fight with his SCVs. So Masa kind of getting a big advantage, and yeah, Passage and Gland's on the way. So this is definitely some sort of Infestor play. Quite a weird game here so far. Mostly Masa just kind of shooting himself in the foot and not getting the lead that he should have by now. I guess the biggest concern that he had was his barracks were all the way across the map over here, and he couldn't really produce units back in his base. But even still, I mean, he built 2 barracks, or rather 3 barracks back at home. Why not just build these here and wall this off so you can protect yourself from an all-in? And then take your command center and take even another command center. Wow. The burrowed Zergling preventing this from landing, even though Scarlett doesn't even have to have her units here. This is craziness, and eventually this was broken, or Masa salvaged his bunkers. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that, but either way, there were only like 1 bunker in each Marine, or 1 Marine in each bunker, rather. So it wasn't going to do that much. Scarlett's now taking her extra base. 3 Infestors on the way. So I guess here's the motto for this game so far. If your opponent overcommits to bunkers up here, try to find another way around, which she definitely found with these rocks. But if they're overcommitting to bunkers, their command center is going to be a lot slower, so it's really not that bad for you to break it eventually. And up come the Zerglings right now, trying to just knock down this supply depot, and they're not going to do too much about that. There's a lot of Marines here, but still, with as many Marines that are here, why is Masa not putting bunkers down here, knowing that this is probably going to be happening? It's not like Scarlett's just going to go back home and do nothing. So Infestor's starting to rally up here, and if she lands fungals on these Marines, this is going to be a totally new game. If she can get a good trade here. Masa's still only mining on 1 base. Up come the Zerglings, and is he going to land fungals on this? Yeah, fungals a couple Marines here. Doesn't actually waste too much command center or rather Infestor energy. Does lose 1 Infestor though, so that's kind of a shame. The turret being here allows him to get the burrowed Infestors scouted out. But this attack's basically over right now from Scarlett, but look at the game now. This is so strange. 29 SCVs to 25 drones. And going back into Scarlett's base, she's still making Infestors. Now she has double Evo chambers up. So this is going to be a longer-term Infestor Ling type of play, but you can eventually get into Ultras if you have double Evo chamber ups, and she's not getting the second upgrade quite yet just because she doesn't have the gas. So this is such a strange game, and I guess we'll have to see how Scarlett continues to play this out. But either way, I really feel like Masa was at a huge advantage and really made a mistake by not just claiming this territory and by putting way too many bunkers up here. So Scarlett, I guess, getting into a decent situation because of that. But all of a sudden, the game is basically reset back down to where Terran, let's just assume, kind of went command center first. Holy crap, that's a lot of infested Terrans. Still don't see this very often. This is so funny. But still, the infested Terrans won't do too much if the Marines are properly microed because they're so slow. Still, grabbing a couple of SCVs, killing off a couple of Marines just for energy is exactly what you want. And now we're going back into macro mode. Scarlett has 14 drones on the way. Where's this armor upgrade? Okay, there we go. So Scarlett starting to get this 1-1 out. Only +1 on the way for the Terran. Only 1 engineering bay as well. So I guess the next timing Scarlett needs to look out for is the medevac timing, but you have to even wonder if Masa will go for that, knowing that Infestors are on the field. So typically in TVZ, you're going to basically have to deal with Reapers, possibly as an opener. After that, Hellions are going to come, and then right after that, we're going to see something like a Banshee, or eventually they're going to push out with their first 2 medevacs, which is what he's starting to do now. But that's only under the assumption that you can usually get away in those medevacs, and if there's Infestors here to lock them down, then we're not going to see that. So that's going to really change a lot. Either way, Bathing Nest on the way, and this is a ridiculously fast Hive. 2 base Hive. This is something you basically never see in this matchup, but I guess sometimes it's called for. I don't know what this is going to be for, actually. Either Ultras or Vipers, I would imagine. Brood Lords would seem a little strange, but here comes the first, I guess, 3 medevacs worth of timings. There's no way this is going to work, though, because the Infestors can lock anything down that they want, preventing the medevacs from escaping, and I think Masa realizes that and just goes home. Zergling's now knocking down the back base. There's 1 Marine over here that could see it, but I guess can't. You have to actually wonder if he could hear that, but I don't think so. Now pushing over here, maybe realizing that there is a back base up, is Masa. He stims in there, just going to get a creep tumor, might scan and get a little bit more, but not really doing too much other than slowing down the expansion. So Scarlett, in such a precarious situation, you really never see this right now. And this is another big problem for Masa, is that getting up his economy in this type of situation is becoming even harder because he didn't go for that 3rd command center. And like we were talking about before, this is the thing that you do with these medevac openers, is you try to get your Marines and Marauders out there and do what you can. But these medevacs could get stuck, especially if he's not paying attention, which he's doing now. Now he finally realizes it. So if Scarlett would have handled that just a little better, she could have killed off that entire army for basically nothing. 3rd expansion now going down. Such a weird game right now, but for Scarlett you have to wonder, is she just going to skip mutas and go straight into Ultras because this Hive is up right now? Or is this going to be for something even more strange, like Viper? No, it's just going to be for Adrenal Glands so far, and that's a really smart upgrade out of Scarlett on this low economy, trying to make the Zerglings do as much as they possibly can. This is something I'd really like to see more often, is getting the faster Hive and Adrenal Glands, especially in the mid-game scenarios where your Zerglings start to become a little more expendable. I mean, even if you get the surrounds, you're going to start to crush the rest of the armies that you're going to see coming out there. So that's definitely the biggest difference. But either way, Adrenal Glands on the way. It's going to finish up a little bit. Not before this attack is going to come, though. But still, these armies are so tiny out of Masa. Scarlett could easily fungal that entire thing in basically 1 fungal and then surround it, and that would be all she wrote. Obviously, no pun intended, but +2 on the way for Scarlett. 2nd engineering bay, and even the armory. Look how late the armory is right now for Masa. So Masa kind of just putting himself behind here, but still Scarlett managing this basically perfectly so far, considering how far behind she got. And yeah, she's just going to skip Spire and go straight for the Ultras. So Ultralisk Cavern on the way. This is 2 armories coming up now, and this may be showing the nerves of Masa right now, because here's 1 armory finishing and a 2nd armory, and there's no mechanical units basically able to be produced right now. There's 1 factory with the tech lab on it, but not even being used. Up comes the attack, and there's still just no way Scarlett's ever going to, or rather Masa's ever going to be able to get a good trade with this. Dropping in here is decent. Might get the queen if she pulls it back. Nope. So it does get the queen, but even still, the fungals here are just going to be enormous. There's no way she could, or Masa can deal with this over time. And you have to actually wonder. Here's another drop here in the main base, by the way, so Masa at least doing something considering his complete lack of tech and upgrades right now. Scarlett's about to be a full set of upgrades ahead once his +2 armor finishes. Masa just kind of not exactly doing the best with the opener that was provided. So I guess if you're Terran watching this replay, the thing you need to remember is that if you open up with an aggressive opener, you need to continue to be aggressive and not all of a sudden get conservative for no reason, because you're going to let people back into games that probably shouldn't be. So yeah, this medevac's going to easily get caught if Scarlett drops a fungal, which she doesn't for some reason. Maybe not thinking that the fungal energy was worth it, or maybe she didn't have enough to follow up, but either way, I think she could have gotten it. But Ultras are now on the way, and Masa's just barely getting his 3rd command center, which that should have been built a long time ago if we've been keeping up with the pace of this game. But Scarlett, again, just getting into a really strong unit composition here. Going to have 5-3 or 3-5 Ultras, depending on however you want to categorize those upgrades. And this is the good thing. This is why you are able to skip Spire if you open this way. You can catch drops with Fungals and with Infested Terrans rather than with Mutas. And the Infestors will generally live a lot longer than the Mutas will, but you won't have as much counterattack potential. Now Masa's starting to push up here. And yeah, that had to be a mistake with building the 2 armories. Still, Fungal's being chained right now. And once these Ultralisk pop, there's really such a tiny army here that the Ultras should basically live forever throughout all this damage, especially being so far ahead in upgrades right now, especially once the Chitinous Mighty finishes. And the fight's still going on here, and you can see big Fungals on top of the army, and Masa just has to retreat once again. And Ultralisk is going to block the retreat path, so all of a sudden Scarlett's at a huge advantage here. She should be able to close this game out pretty effortlessly, I have to say. So yeah, great crisis management there out of Scarlett, and knowing the tempo and just trying something that's gonna work out, or at least hopefully. The thing we should mention here is that if you're ever in a weird low econ type of situation, any units that are casting units like Infestors, for example, are going to be really, really worthwhile. Some of these Infestors have dropped tons of Fungals, dropped tons of Infested Terrans. They've done way more work than just any ordinary unit would at that stage of the game. Here comes the attack right now. Scarlett, sensing how far ahead she is, just going to plow in here, even with no Infestor energy. The 3 Ultras, like I said, with these tiny little unit counts, are basically never going to die because they have such great upgrades, and there's just not enough to DPS these things down. Even pulling the Ultralisk back and kind of accepting her lead right now is Scarlett, so continuing to be really careful with the units that she has. And Masa just GG's, realizing that he is so far behind. So that was a really, really weird game. You don't normally see stuff like that, but I think what you need to know is you need to know that if you go into that type of situation, especially as the Terran, and you get a bunker rush to kill a hatchery, you definitely need to follow up really aggressively. You can't just do something middle of the road and just kind of sit back. Scarlett demonstrating some really great crisis management there to knock down the rocks, find an external entry point, and delay the command center even further. Even researching Burrow and getting into those energy units is going to be a really good idea. Let me just check the Twitch chat here. Yeah, this is definitely a weird game. But I think the reason I picked this game is because I realized that Scarlett was going to lose the hatchery to the bunker rush. And a lot of people get in that situation and they just don't really know what to do. So if that's the case, you need to commit to one thing pretty hard. And the one thing she committed to is knowing that in a low econ game, Infestors are going to be worth a lot. She also knew that just building roaches or maybe trying to Baneling all in or something like that isn't going to work out, considering the 3 barracks there usually stop most of it. So there's a lot. There's a little more to be learned, but that is definitely a strange game. I do try and kind of hybridize it a little bit to put in unusual games with learning games to provide entertainment as well as information. So